It's really wonderful to be here, and I want to thank the organizers of my trip to give me this opportunity to talk to you. I think there's so much to talk about. You know, I kept thinking, what are the issues I can raise with you here? Because there's so many that we can actually talk about that we need to go to in depth in order to really talk in depth about the political Islamic movement and what it means for people in the Middle East, in North Africa, but also here in Europe. And I thought this is the first time I'm talking about this, so it's actually a lot of preliminary ideas. So excuse me if it's not as well thought out as, for example, the talk I gave yesterday on the veil, because that's something I've worked on quite extensively. But I wanted to talk to you about the Council of Ex-Muslims, this movement that's taking shape in Europe, and its significance in challenging head-on the political Islamic movement, and why it's important for people in Europe and everywhere to support it. Just to give you a couple of examples, I mean, you know, in the 21st century, you have a 16-year-old girl being hung from a city square for acts incompatible with chastity. Recently, a man was stoned to death for having sex outside of marriage. A youth, last week, flogged in public for drinking alcohol. A girl in Saudi Arabia pushed back into a burning building because the religious police said she wasn't veiled and therefore could not come out in public. A teacher in Afghanistan shot for teaching girls. And children and spouses of labor activists in Iran imprisoned because of their spouses' activities, their fathers' activities. And of course, political opponents and apostates assassinated or tortured and executed left, right, and center. These are, I think, just a few examples of what Islam, what political Islam, and what Sharia means for millions of people who are languishing in countries like Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan under Islamic laws. And more it's beginning to explain what it means for people millions of people who are relegated to the control of regressive and backward Islamic organizations here in the very heart of Europe. I think we need to be very clear, political Islam is this era's totalitarianism, and it's aimed at bringing and maintaining Islamic laws and Islamic states wherever possible. To the extent and to the degree that it has power and it has control, that is the degree and the extent to which it wreaks havoc and misery and suffering for people. It tries to control every aspect of people's lives, from what you eat, when and with who you have sex with, what music you can listen to, what type of work and study you can go into, even what you can name your child, to, of course, the very detailed intricacies of the so-called Islamic justice system and the workings and details of a state. And since its rules and system are divinely ordained, they are deemed to be unquestionable, which is why apostasy is the highest crime punishable by death in all countries ruled by Islam, and why there is absolutely no toleration for criticism. Whilst this movement hangs apostates from street corners where it is in power, here in Europe its tactics are more subtle, but just as inhuman and brutal. You only need to look at the threats surrounding the Danish Mohammed caricatures, or the assassination of Theo van Gogh, and for his and Ayaan Hirsi Ali's film on the treatment of women under Islam, to see how seriously this movement deals with criticism, and particularly apostasy. From their perspective, apostasy is the very unraveling of the entire system from within. If you question one law, one hadith, one surah of the Quran, you question it all. If you are allowed to leave, you undermine it all. Which is why I have received countless emails saying, once you are a Muslim, you are always a Muslim. You cannot leave. You are not allowed to leave. to which, of course, I have said, watch me, watch us, we are leaving, and we have left in droves. Therein, I believe, lies the most significant aspect of the Council of Ex-Muslims that have been established in Germany, in Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Britain, and on September 11th there will be a new one formally established in Holland. And therein lies its significance and challenge to the political Islamic movement. In a sense, this move in Europe is part of the trend that is bringing Islam in power in Iran to its knees. And that's why I think one of the things you see for all of the councils of ex-Muslims, they were initially initiated and led by Iranian exiles. People have often left Islam before, but an organized movement of this nature paves the way for others to be able to renounce Islam and religion and to break an important taboo. The council movement shows that there are many who want to leave, or at the very least who are opposed to the political Islamic movement and who are challenging it head-on, especially in light of the fact that Islamists often pretend to represent all so-called Muslims and all the people of the Middle East and North Africa. We, this council movement, insists that people not be pigeonholed as Muslims and handed over lock, stock and barrel to a political Islamic movement, but treated here in Europe as equal citizens before and under the law.